Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotarasata Sri Srimad His Divine Loving Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki, Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki, Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories unto the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So let's chant the invocation. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Malitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayan Dudati Swapadanjikam Vanneham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatan Vitam Stam Sachivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 3rd chapter. I was allotted the verses, a cluster of verses from 24 to 31. So it's 10th canto, 3rd chapter, texts 24 to 31, entitled Devaki's Prayers. So the choice of verse to read and purport for this morning is text 31, and it is like this. Vishvam yadetat svatano nishante yatavakasham Purusha Paro Bhavan Bibharti Soyam Mama Garbhago Bud Aho Nilokya Aho Nilokyasya Vidambanam Hitat. Word for word. Vishvam, the entire cosmic manifestation. Yaetat, containing all moving and non-moving creations. Swatanu, within your body. Nishante, at the time of devastation. Yata avakasham, shelter in your body without difficulty. Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Para, transcendental. Bhavan, your lordship. Bibharti, keep. Sa, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ayam, this form. Mama, my. Garbhaga, came within my womb. Adbhut, it so happened. Aho, alas. Nilokasya, within this material world of living entities. Vidambanam, it is impossible to think of. He, indeed. Tat, that kind of conception. Translation by His Divine Loving Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and purport by him as well. Translation. At the time of devastation, the entire cosmos, containing all created moving and non-moving entities, enters your transcendental body and is held there without difficulty. But now, this transcendental form has taken birth from my womb. People will not be able to believe this, and I shall become an object of ridicule. Spoken by Devaki. Purport by Prabhupada. As explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, loving service to the personality of Godhead is of two different kinds. Aishvarya Purna, full of opulence, and Aishvarya Shitila, without opulence. Real love of Godhead begins with Aishwarya Shitila, simply on the basis of pure love. Premanjano charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shamasanna ramachantya guna swarupam govindam badi purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5:38. Pure devotees whose eyes are anointed with the anointment of prema, love, want to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Shyam Sundar Muralidhar with the flute swaying in his two hands. This is the form available to the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who are all in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Shyam Sundar, not as Lord Vishnu Narayan, who is worshipped in Vaikuntha, where the devotees admire his opulence. Although Devaki is not on the Vrindavan platform, she is near the Vrindavan platform. On the Vrindavan platform, the mother of Krishna is Mother Yasoda, and on Mathura and Dwarka platform, the mother of Krishna is Devaki. In Mathura and Dwarka, the love for the Lord is mixed with appreciation of his opulence, but in Vrindavan, the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not exhibited. There are 5 stages of loving service to the Supreme Lord of Godhead: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Devaki is on the platform of Vatsalya. She wanted to deal with her eternal son Krishna in the stage of love, and therefore she wanted the Supreme Personality of Godhead to withdraw his opulent form of Vishnu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur illuminates this fact very clearly in his explanation of this verse. Bhakti, Bhagavan, and Bhakta do not belong in the material world. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vibhavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityayan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in the spiritual activities of unalloyed devotional service immediately transcends the modes of material nature and is elevated to the spiritual platform. From the very beginning of one's transactions in bhakti, one is situated on a transcendental platform. Vasudeva and Devaki, therefore, being situated in a completely pure devotional state, are beyond this material world and are not subject to the material fear. In the transcendental world, however, because of pure devotion, there is a similar conception of fear which is due to intense love. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavan yastasmin tatvataha, and as confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktyaham ekayagraya, without bhakti, one cannot understand the spiritual situation of the Lord. Bhakti may be considered in 3 stages, called Guni Bhakti, Pradhani Bhuta, and Kevala. And according to these stages, there are 3 divisions, which are called Gyan, Gyanamayi, and Rati or Prema. This is simple knowledge, love mixed with knowledge, and pure love. By simple knowledge, one can perceive the transcendental bliss without variety. This perception is called Man-Bhuti. When one comes to the stage of Gyanamayi, one realizes the transcendental opulence of the personality of Godhead. And when one reaches pure love, one realizes the transcendental form of the Lord as Lord Krishna or Lord Rama. This is what is wanted, especially in the Madhurya Ras. One becomes attached to the personality of Godhead, Shri Vigraha Nishta Rupadi. Then, loving transactions between the Lord and the devotee begin. The special significance of Krishna's bearing a flute in his hands in Vrajabhumi Vrindavan is described as Madhuri Virajyate. The form of Lord Krishna with the flute in his hands is most attractive, and the one who is most sublimely attracted is Srimati Radharani, Radhika. She enjoys supremely blissful association with Krishna. Sometimes people cannot understand why Radhika's name is not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, however, Radhika can be understood from the word Aradhana, which indicates that she enjoys the highest loving affairs with Krishna. Not wanting to be ridiculed for having given birth to Vishnu, Devaki wanted Krishna with 2 hands, and therefore she requested the Lord to change his form. So, as Devaki begins her prayers, she has been through quite a lot. Notably, Devaki has been through suffering beyond compare, one can say. At the very onset of her journey into her in-laws' family on the day of her wedding, Devaki had a near-death experience. When the voice was spoken from the sky, and Kamsa, her very own cousin brother, wanted to kill her there and then. Then, after that near-death experience, Devaki was then imprisoned and treated like a criminal, even though she had not performed any criminal act. Then difficulties came in a greater form of intensity towards Devaki. 6 of her newborn children, birth after birth, were killed by Kamsa right in her very presence by smashing their delicate newborn bodies against the rock wall. So Devaki had to go through this trauma. She went through this trauma, and thereafter, as predicted, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna took birth from her womb, and she had to endure that Krishna would leave her presence immediately after birth. And finally, one could say, Devaki had to endure that she was deprived of the beautiful childhood pastimes that the Vrajabasis had witnessed, of Krishna stealing butter, of Krishna playing mischievously with the calves, hanging onto their tails and being dragged through the mud and cow dung, and his body being covered by all of the substances from these auspicious cows. So here we have now reached a point where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is standing before her in his 4-armed form. He has just taken birth, and he has appeared outside her body in this 4-armed form together with golden helmet, golden amulets, and other forms of jewelry in all opulence. He stands before her. At this point in time, Devaki is experiencing 3 things. She is enlightened, she is fearful, and she is very, very humbled. So firstly, she's experiencing enlightenment. In the first verse in this section, text number 24, she establishes the fact that Krishna and Vishnu are not different from each other. And sure enough, Srila Prabhupada elaborates in the purport painstakingly, because at the time when he wrote these purports, he was near his end and his body was in such a wilted state. But yet, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath, Srimad Mahaprabhu, Shri Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. So Prabhupada gave us very mercifully these purports, and he elaborated there that Vishnu and Krishna are one and the same, but they are same in tattva. In rasa, they differ. So Vishnu, prior to this, we heard in the purport that we read that the residents of Vrindavan, they prefer the worship of Krishna in his two-armed form with flute in the hand and his Tribanga, Sham Sundar pose. So one time, it is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is quoted from Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani, that prior to the Ras Leela, Srimati Radharani and the gopis were searching after Krishna. And the gopis, they came to every nook and cranny, one could say, to use the cliche, looking for Krishna in Vrindavan. And Krishna had disguised himself in his four-armed form, and he stood there as Narayan. When the gopis saw this form of Narayan, they offered their respects, Om Namo Narayana, to him, and they prayed to him, please help us remove the curtain of our distress and reveal to us the beautiful form of Shama Sundar that our hearts are burning with desire to see. And then they said Namo Narayana to him, and they left. And Narayan remained standing there. But Srimati Radharani was the next great personality to come by. And when he saw Srimati Radharani and her urgency to see Shyamsundar Krishna, he could not contain the four arms, and thereby he had to hide his other two arms. So this form of the two-armed Shyamsundar form was brought about despite his desire to remain in disguise. He was unable to retain it because of the deep love that Prabhupada gives us a glimpse of in this purport by chanting the Brahma Samhita prayers, Premanjano Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. So, because Radharani is imbued with love for Krishna that is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence, Krishna was unable to maintain the Vishnu form, which is characteristic of awe and reverence. The Vishnu form is worshipped like you see in the cover of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. You have all of the Vishnu planets, and these four-armed forms hold the shank, the gada, the lotus flowers, and the disc in all different orders. And they belong to all of the Vaikuntha planets. But higher than all of that is Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna resides in his two-armed form, playing his flute and sporting with different wonderful loving pastimes with the gopis and the other residents of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So, in the purport of the first verse, in the verse 24, Mother Devaki is making a point that even though some sections of the Vedas refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as Nirvishesh, as Avyakta, one whose form cannot be perceived, as Brahma Jyoti, the bright light, the Brahman effulgence. So all of these terms are coded by the Mayavadis to mean that Krishna has no particular form, that he is formless, he is avyakta, his senses cannot be perceived, neither can he perceive in that manner, in a personal form. However, Krishna is known as Avyakta Bandhu. Avyakta Bandhu refers to Lord Krishna as the person who is behind everything, even though unseen. Prabhupada gives the analogy of a potter's wheel. If you ever know a potter's wheel, it is rotating at high speed, and the potter is expert to have the clay at a certain consistency, and he throws it with great artistry on the center of the potter's wheel as it is spinning. and thereby he shapes beautiful ceramics, different works of art via his skill. So a person may see that the potter's wheel is spinning and something is being created, and they may not notice the potter, who is the exact intelligence behind the minute creation. In the same manner, Prabhupada explains, everything is happening in creation. Everything is in orbit, all by the supreme will and intelligence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Behind the creation, there is a person. So this aspect of Krishna being impersonal is also propagated, that the living entity and Krishna are one and the same, and thereby the living entity merges into Krishna and becomes one with the Lord. However, this argument is easily defeated by devotees and followers in our Gaudiya Parampara and in the Vaishnava Parampara. One time, Srila Prabhupada was at Kumbh Mela, and the devotees, most of the Western devotees, they had blankets in the very icy cold weather of Kumbh Mela. And one sadhu who was of the habit of maintaining this type of understanding that we and Krishna are one and the same, approached the devotees and asked for a blanket. And a devotee very cleverly pulled out a strand of the blanket and gave it to him. And he said, "What is this? I need a whole blanket, not just a strand." And the devotee very intelligently said to him, "In your philosophy, a strand is equal to the entire blanket. The Jivatma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are both one and the same, right? With no distinction of quantity and quality." So, one time, His Holiness Giriraj Swami was preaching in the West, and he encountered a man who had the same type of understanding. But he told Maharaj that he had a guru that he was following, because he was explaining a Mayavad philosophy as they conversed. So His Holiness Giriraj Swami, following the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, asked the man, "So if I tell you I am the President of the United States of America, will you believe me?" And the man said, "Yes." So then Maharaj very expertly said, "Because I am the President of the United States of America, I am the ultimate authority, and I hereby order you to give me your wallet." So the man took out his whole wallet, which had about $9, which was a lot of money, and he placed it in Maharaj's hand, simply because he was stubborn enough not to concede that the superior philosophy was that which the Maharaj was telling him. So then Maharaj took the wallet and he disappeared within the crowd, and he continued on his preaching endeavors. And some 2 hours later, the man found him and said, "You know what? Tomorrow I gave you all my whole salary, and tomorrow my rent is due." So when Prabhupada heard of this instance, Prabhupada was very pleased, and he repeated it to other people. He said, "My student Giriraj has said this because these young American boys and girls have now accepted this understanding wholeheartedly, and they have understood the difference between Krishna's energy, and they understand that us as individual souls and Krishna are like two birds in a green tree. If you put two parrots together, they look identical, but they are different. And worse so, if they fly into a green tree, it appears as one green mass. However, an intelligent person knows that each bird is an individual, as well as the tree is separate from the bird. So similarly, the Jivatma is separate from the Lord in his existence eternally. At no time does he merge into the existence of the Lord. So Devaki's enlightenment is part of this philosophy, is part of Devaki's enlightenment at this point, as she stands right in front of the Lord. And then she goes on to explain that, my Lord, that even though the Vedas explain 3 aspects of your existence, some people accept only part of it. There are three aspects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is the Bhagavan feature, which is his personal feature. Then there is the Brahman feature, or the feature of his impersonal nature. And then the localized aspect, which is the Paramatma realization. So Devaki is explaining that you, at no point in time does your is your Brahman effulgence complete, neither is the Paramatma understanding complete. The understanding of Bhagavan encompassing these 3 aspects is only complete when one acknowledges that the Lord is a person. And from the person comes the effulgence. From the person comes the localized aspect. So, one time, this philosophy was challenged, or in jest, Lord Chaitanya was having a conversation with a strong Vishnu follower by the name of Venkatabhata. So when Lord Chaitanya was going through South India, he met Venkatabhata. And Venkatabhata used to worship Lakshmi Narayan with great awe and great reverence. And you'll find this to be quite predominant and understanding in the south of India. There's hardly a Radharani in a temple close to a deity of Vishnu or Krishna. So, Venkatabhata, he was asked by Lord Chaitanya, your Lakshmi Devi, how is it that she, despite having a permanent residence on the chest of Lord Narayan, felt the need to come to Vrindavan and perform austerities to gain entrance into the Ras Leela? So Venkatabhata replied, there is nothing wrong with that if a wife desires to see her husband in formal clothes sometimes and sometimes in casual clothes. It is not wrong, it is not unchaste, it cannot be called a fault. So then Lord Chaitanya smiled and the discussion ensued. But in actual fact, Venkatabhata understood at the end of that yes, Krishna's 2-armed, threefold bending form with the flute in hand is actually the superior form. In actual fact, an analogy can be given to understand this concept of Vishnu and Krishna being one, but yet simultaneously one and different. Prabhupada explains that this is the philosophy that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to impart, the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Lord, so this philosophy is synonymous to the fact that the Bala Chandra, or the small moon, is contained within the huge moon. Any phase of the waxing moon does not exist separately from the moon, but it's contained within the feature of a full moon. So similarly, even though the features of Lord Vishnu in any form of Vishnu, like we discussed, is visible on the cover page of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, this is actually like phases of the moon. we understand by this analogy. So Devaki, she becomes exceptionally humbled by this understanding that in his form as Vishnu, at the time of annihilation, the Lord inhales, and all the universes and living entities, they take shelter within his belly. Even though everybody else takes shelter within his belly, she is humbled at the fact that he chose to take residence in her belly. And feeling this humility, she is praying to him. And we said that the other thing that she feels, she's enlightened, she's humbled, and then Devaki feels fear. From yesterday's discussion, we understand, and from the purport we read, that fear comes in the Aishwarya Bhav. But because Devaki and her husband Vasudev are not of this material realm, Prabhupada explained in the purport we read, their feelings of fear is not synonymous to the type of fear that is experienced on the material plane. It is fear born of deep affection for Krishna's protection. Having witnessed that all 6 of the children had been killed in such a manner by the atrocious behavior of Kamsa, they, out of parental affection, wanted to protect Krishna. Devaki makes a statement that we would not be able to hide your divine form from Kamsa if it is the 4-handed form. Can you imagine Vishnu trying to play hide and seek or try to hide Lord Vishnu? 2 arms may just stick out. So that's the understanding Devaki is saying. And she's appealing to him, please, also for the sake of my reputation, because Kamsa is expecting that according to the prediction that was spoken by the voice in the sky, the 8th child of Devaki is going to be none other than his arch enemy Vishnu. And if he comes in and he sees the Vishnu form, immediately he's going to try to kill him. But mind you, the name that Devaki uses in this instance to address Lord Krishna tells us that she is not really fearful. She calls Krishna Madhusudan. Out of all the names she could address Krishna by, she calls him Madhusudan. Why? Because there existed at the beginning of creation a demon who was 1,000 times more powerful than Kamsa, by the name of Madhu. So there were 2 demons, Madhu and Kaitava. And Madhu was defeated by Lord Krishna in his form as Vishnu. So Devaki is saying, "Oh Madhusudan, grant us protection." She is not scared that Krishna will not be a befitting opponent for Kamsa. No, she is fully convinced that as per the prediction, Krishna has appeared and he will vanquish all their fears. He will relieve them all the fears by killing the evil-minded Kamsa. So what happens is that I'm smiling because there's a very nice nursery rhyme, but this is a formal setting, so I can't teach you the nursery rhyme about Devaki and Kamsa. So in fear of Kamsa, she's actually she's asking Krishna. And then she's telling Krishna that you, Madhusudan, you are not affected by time. The Kala Shakti is something that everybody in creation is affected by. And Kala Shakti is controlled by the sun, by Surya. As Surya passes, as the sun rises and sets, what does it say in the Bhagavatam? Ayur Harati Vaipumsam. That by the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun, there is an announcement to us Jivatmas that we are one day closer to death. So here Devaki is saying, my Lord, you are not affected by the Kala Shakti because you state that the sun is but one of your eyes. So in actual fact, even though others may perceive that Kala or time is controlled by the sun, we understand, she is enlightened and she's enlightening us, that Krishna is the controller of the sun and the moon. He is the supreme controller. So she's afraid, she wants to hide him, and thereby she approaches him to please now appear as a normal baby. So in the Krishna book, in the 98th chapter, there is an instance where Krishna is declared as the most powerful personality. You see, on the banks of the river, the great sages assembled there, and they wanted to know who, amidst all of the predominating deities of the universe, is the greatest personality, who possesses utmost control. So they summoned the great sage Brigu, and they asked him on their behalf to go out and carry out a test and declare to them who amidst all of the predominating deities is supreme. So Brigu, the intelligent Muni, went and he approached Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is in charge of the mode of passion. And Brigu decided, even though Brahma is also his father, he approached Brahma and committed a mental offense. A mild offense, because offenses, the mildness of the offense is in 3 different stages. So with Brahma, he committed a mental offense, and Brahma began to chide him. Then he went to Lord Shiva, and even though in the instance of Brahma supposedly chiding his son for his neglect to offer respects to him, Lord Brahma was not controlled by passion. His intelligence was superlative to his possession of passion. Thereby, he utilized that intelligence to not become physical or become passionate in his response to Brigu's test. Brigu then continued his testing, and he went to Mount Kailash to Lord Shiva. And there, as Lord Shiva arose from his seat, seeing this great Muni, and he went to embrace him physically, he physically pushed Lord Shiva. So his degree of offense to Lord Shiva was even more acute than that of his offense with Lord Brahma. Now his offenses had reached the physical state. From mental state, it's now becoming physical. However, when Lord Shiva, when he was then sent away, and Lord Shiva reacted in a way a little more intense than Lord Brahma, he goes to Lord Vishnu, and he decides to take his offense to the 3rd degree, and he kicks. With Lord Shiva, he verbally expressed offenses. He told him, "You are always dirty, your body is covered by ash, and thereby I do not wish to embrace you." So his offense was verbal. And when he went to Lord Vishnu, that offense was taken to its utmost level, and he wanted to be physical. So he kicked the chest of Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu responded in such a manner. He said, "My dear sage, I am so sorry that your soft lotus feet had to come in contact with my hard chest. I pray that you have not become inconvenienced in any way. So Bhrigu became convinced that out of all three presiding deities, Vishnu is supreme, and he took his argument back to the sages. Another time, in that same chapter, chapter 98 of the Krishna book, establishing Krishna's position as supreme or superlative to everybody else, Arjuna was visiting Dwarika at the time, and Arjuna witnessed that a Brahmana came crying to the gate of Maharaj Ugrasen, who was then established as the king of Dwarka by Lord Krishna. And he was crying because this was this was his sixth child that was killed. He had lost a lot of children. I think he lost about 8 children who right at birth died. And at every time when his wife gave birth and a child died, he went to Maharaj Ugrasen's palatial gate, and he expressed his dissatisfaction that due to the impious deeds, he quoted that it is an injunction in scripture that if the leader or the king is impious, then the citizens suffer distress even to the degree that a child will die before the death of the parents. So he was highly, highly upset with the management of Dwarka. So when this 8th child of his died and he went to the gate and he was expressing this, Arjun heard his argument, heard his discussion, and out of curiosity he went to him, and as he approached him, he could hear the Brahmana saying, "Is there no qualified Kshatriya in existence anymore that can afford me protection, that could protect my newborn children?" He said, "Alas, alas, here in Dwarka, Sankarshan dwells in the form of Baladev, but not even he can protect me. Krishna is here in Dwarka, but not even Krishna can protect me." And then he goes on to say, there are even warriors, great warriors like Pradumna and Aniruddha, and not even they are able to protect me. Alas, alas, where can I get shelter? So Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, thought this to be a challenge to the Kshatriyas, and he said, if they are unable to protect you, I vow that I will try to offer you protection, failing which I vow that I will commit suicide. Hearing this, Krishna smiled, because Arjuna thought, well, the Brahmana is saying that Krishna is here, but Krishna can't protect me. So what he did was, he summoned some divine arrows that were gifted to him by Lord Shiva, and he decided to protect the Brahmana and his family, his wife giving birth to the 9th child, using these divine arrows. So when it was time for the wife to give birth, the Brahmana summoned Arjuna, and initially the Brahmana thought, your promise, despite knowing that Balaram and Krishna could not protect me, is like the foolish words of a child. You are trying to succeed where Krishna and Balaram did not succeed, where the army of Ugrasen cannot succeed. So thereby it is childish, but anyhow I will give you a chance. So Arjun, he stations himself and is outside the maternity ward, and as soon as the Brahmana's wife gives birth, the child being alive starts to cry. And then, miraculously, in the presence of Arjuna, and with Arjuna holding his arrows in his divine arrows in his Gandiva bow, the child and both the arrows mysteriously, by the power of Yogeshwar, fly up into the sky and disappear. Seeing this from his palace window, Krishna smiles, and then Arjuna, He becomes totally bewildered. What has happened? And then he has to fulfill his vow. As a Kshatriya, he prepares to commit suicide. And Krishna comes and stops him. And Krishna says, come with me, Arjuna. We will go and find this missing baby and we will return it to the Brahmana, because Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. He is that great personality who is always willing to go extra miles to protect his near and dear ones, especially Arjuna. In this instance, Lord Krishna takes Arjuna and they travel north. They go to Yamaloka and they don't find the baby, the children of the Brahmana. And they go further and further and further. Eventually they go to the universe, riding on Krishna's divine chariot, driven by divine horses. The chariot nears the end of the universe, just on the brink of the Brahma Jyoti. And no fear is experienced by Krishna's horses. They then, by Krishna's potency, go beyond the coverings of the material universe to the shore of the ocean of Svetadweep. And then thereby they enter deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually they find the 9 children that are being withheld by a Vishnu form of Purushottam. Krishna then, exhibiting that his form of Krishna surpasses the power of any Vishnu form, and establishing himself as the superlative power in the universe, he gets the 9 children of the Brahmana and he takes them together with Arjun back to Dwarka, presents these 9 children to the Brahmana, and much to the Brahman and his wife's great joy, it is hereby re-established, their doubts are vanquished, that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. His 2-armed form is superior and most powerful. And thus Arjuna also becomes reinforced in his faith. And the story ends there, declaring that Krishna is superior to Lord Vishnu. So I would like to conclude there. Is there any, and it's already time also, so with humility, I beg for any forgiveness for any shortcomings in this class, and I would like to ask for any corrections, questions, or comments. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'd like to thank all of our online viewers as well, and we wish you all the best in the festive period of Sri Krishna Janmashtami. We are indebted to you for your support of this wonderful temple. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.